This podcast is for SEO professionals, and each week, with the help of our wonderful guests, we discuss the important stuff that actually affects our careers and progression, but sadly often doesn't get talked about. You know, the invaluable soft and interpersonal skills that are often taken for granted, such as the skills we need for listening, time management, communication, and more. We also talk about the big issues that affect us and our careers, such as burnout, imposter syndrome, self-belief, saying no, plus other big issues and obstacles. With this podcast, we want to share knowledge on topics that unlock our listeners' true potential and enhance not only their careers, but all parts of their lives. So, are you ready to prioritize your own personal growth and career development? Then let's crack on with this week's episode.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the SEO Mindset podcast, where your hosts are myself, Tazmin Suleiman, and my dear friend Sarah McDowell. New episodes go out every Thursday, and this week we have a special episode, which is a recording of the live podcast that we recorded only a few weeks ago at Brighton. Sarah and I, along with our co-host and friend Jack Chambers-Ward, talked all about how to career plan without overwhelming yourself. We talked about our experiences of career planning, what's worked for us, what hasn't, and shared actionable tips aimed at making career planning easier and less daunting. There was also a live Q&A with the audience, and as is now the way at our events, they were super authentic, supportive of each other, and it was such a wonderful atmosphere. In the recording, we have also talked about a free resource on Ikigai, a Japanese method to help you discover your best career. There will be a link in the show notes. But before we dive into the episode, a reminder that if you're enjoying the things that Sarah and I are doing, there's various ways of supporting us. One is to donate a one-off donation via the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in the show notes, and also to subscribe. Again, everything you need is in the show notes. Now, let's listen to the live.
Hello and welcome to the fourth live podcast, which is like crazy. And I think this is our fullest audience yet. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. And also there are people here that have been from the start. So thank you so much for coming along each time. We very much appreciate that. So yeah, are we excited for the live podcast both?
Yeah.
Go.
I mean, the audience is excited for you. Wonderful. So before we get started with the live podcast, and we're talking about career planning without the overwhelm, because it's very overwhelming. So you'll go away today knowing how to do that. But before we do, just a couple of things. So this is a collaboration between the SEO Mindset podcast and the Search with Canada podcast. So can I get hands up who's familiar with the SEO Mindset podcast? Oh, nice.
Strong numbers. Strong
numbers.
Tazmin just letting everyone said it's not a competition. You've absolutely just made this a competition.
Okay, Jack, are you thinking you're going to have more or less? Higher or lower?
I'll go higher.
Okay, hands up.
And they'll do it despite me, and no hands will go up.
Hands up who's heard of the Search of Canada podcast?
Oh.
There is more. Tazmin, we need to work on our marketing.
By the end of this evening.
You've all heard of both, right? Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. So, chat. I can't even say your name.
Hey,
that's a strong start, isn't it? Jack.
Hello.
For those who don't know about Search with Canada, tell us.
It is a weekly marketing and SEO podcast that is available on Spotify, YouTube. I've started doing video stuff now, thank God, beginning of 2024. And I basically interview the best, the brightest. I've seen a few familiar faces who have been on the podcast before in the room. And yeah, we talk about all kinds of stuff, from specific recommendations for GA4 attribution models, all the way through to how the neuroscience of marketing works and how you need to understand how your message is going to be perceived in other languages. We cover a bunch of different topics with a bunch of different guests. And yeah, it comes out every week on Monday morning. You can go and check it out. Like I said, Spotify, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
Lovely stuff. Tazmin, your turn. Do the SEO. We really need to sell it by the looks of the hands. So this is your time to shine.
On a serious note, we started this podcast because we had heard so many people in the community struggling with things like confidence, imposter syndrome, burnout, and everyone was talking about it, that it was a thing, but there didn't seem to be much in the form of resources to help the community. So that's where it started. There is a mission behind all of the joviality behind it, but it's the SEO Mindset podcast. It doesn't talk about SEO.
Despite the name.
Despite the name.
We dabble.
We dabble. Did we dabble?
Well,
you dabble a bit more than I do.
Experience-wise, when we share.
We share. So it is all about personal development and well-being, which I think is really, really needed in the community. And should we tell them?
Wow, you've got to tell people about your Ikigai.
So unlike Jack, we came with a gift.
How rude. See, that would have got you the vote. If we do the votes at the end, then now they've got gifts from you.
Right. Hands up who has dabbled with Ikigai. One.
Oh, we've got a hand. Two hands. Three hands. Four. I feel like every time I say, someone else puts their hand up, don't they? Right. 4 people.
It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the process of going through the Ikigai. So it is a Japanese concept helping you find the career and life that you're seeking of purpose and fulfillment. And on everyone's chair, you will see a handout like this. In fact, you will see 5. And at the back of the handout, there will be a QR code, which will take you to a very short presentation on how to work through the process. The reason you have 5 is 1 is for you and 4 are for friends. So tomorrow, when you're at Brighton, hand it out to 4 friends so that they too can go through that. And what I found is, and we'll talk about this, the closer you can get to a life which is aligned with who you are, the easier it is to be confident, less imposter syndrome, and burnout just goes out the window. So that's for you all.
We'll give you more details about Ikigai during the actual episode podcast we'll do in a sec as well.
Yeah. During the episode that's live and we've got an audience, that always throws me because so this event wouldn't be possible without the support that we get from brands and organizations. So we just want to invite a few of them to join on the stage. So can we get a round of applause for Steve from Systrix? Come and say a few words.
Come on, Steve.
Now I have to do the awkward thing, the sponsor bit, when this is all going lovely and warm, and now the sponsor thing. My name is Steve from Systrix. I won't tell you too much about Systrix. If you want to learn more, myself and Michelle are on stage, and Tazmin is hosting tomorrow afternoon, Syndicate 1 and 2. Michelle's talking about TikTok trends and TikTok ambassadorships and that sort of stuff. I'm going to talk about trends as well, so please do join us for that. To mend the kind of aura that I've just broken, we've left some nice warm beanies on the chairs. I'm absolutely gobsmacked about how many people are here. I only ordered 50 beanies. I'm so sorry if you don't get one. Have a word with me and we'll sort it out for you. I hope you don't need them the next couple of days. That's it for me. Enjoy the podcast, and I hope to see you around the next 2 days. Thank you.
Woo. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
And then we have another thank you, and that is Majestic, because the pizza and the food that you've been eating, they are our food and drink sponsors. I can't see your face, Steve.
We have another Steve.
Another Steve.
Go on, Steve.
He's running.
It's only Steve's allowed for our sponsors.
Yeah, thank you. So it is limited to Steve's. Fine name. said something last year from the heart, so I can't repeat it, because if people listen to last year's, then listen to this year's. Sincere. I've always been a reluctant manager. I manage and work in fear of making accidental oversight or mistake that then ruins somebody's day and makes me an accidental arsehole. So it's with great reluctance I went into management, and I share that to try to make the point that for me, mindfulness and what's being shared here is one of the core foundations, along with the passion for self-development, which you'll clearly share, for career development and personal well-being. So thank you both.
Thank you very much. Round of applause.
Oh yeah, and majestic.
And then our last two is Silicon Brighton. So Cameron, who is behind doing all the technical things, part of Silicon Brighton, but Silicon Brighton do loads
of events around Brighton, around tech, I know they do well-being and stuff as well. So it feels like we fit in really well with those guys. And they've really helped us work with the venue here and find everything, get everything organized and find a home for us in Brighton, because none of the three of us are local to Brighton. So it's quite intimidating being like, we need to find a venue. We need to work out where we're going to do. Do we have enough chairs? And Silicon Brighton's been really helpful supporting us and getting events sorted.
And this is being live streamed as well. And that's possible.
Wave at the camera.
Yeah, there's the camera. Everyone wave that over there. I
don't know how many people can see on the camera.
I mean, we've tried it. So yes, so thank you so much, Silicon Brighton. And then obviously the venue projects, they're always super helpful. We come back every time. The room is beautiful. I think the first time I walked in, I think I actually gasped. But yeah. So is that, I think that's everyone.
I think that's everything.
Yep. Should thank you too.
And then you, Sarah.
There we go. Right. Should we crack on? Should we talk about career planning? Before we do, let's get a raise of hands. Who does career planning or who has dabbled in career planning? Okay. All right.
4 or 5 people, give or take.
Who understands what career planning is?
Even a few. Oh no, a couple more people.
Okay. So this is very needed then, this conversation. So we're just going to have a bit of a chit chat about it, aren't we? So let's start sharing our own experiences with career planning. And Tazmin, let's start with you.
I think way back when career planning, you had one lesson that you went to the careers advisor with, and they didn't know you didn't know them. And they gave some stupid advice that you came out thinking, I'm even more confused than when I started. At one point, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I don't know why I wanted to be a marine biologist. I can barely swim. That would have been.
I can see you as, apart from the swimming part, I can see you as a marine biologist.
Oh, that would have been on my career planning, wouldn't it? Learn how to swim. But for a long time, I didn't plan. I just drifted along. I listened to what people told me that I should be doing. I had perceived thoughts of what I should be doing, and I just muddled along. I just went from one job to another. So I don't even think I felt I had a career. And that was until I would say about 40. And then I learned this thing that, I get to do what I want with my life. And I didn't know that until that point. I didn't know that I could make choices for myself. And I slowly started understanding that there are things that I am naturally good at and things that I naturally like doing. And if I can steer my career that way, there are things I want for my life. And, money is part of it. How much do you want to earn? Because that also will impact what career choices you make. And I would say now I am very, very intentional. I look at my career plan every year and then every quarter after that. So I align. And I think if you are going on a journey, that constant alignment is very, very needed, because if you just skew off a little bit and don't bring yourself back again, you're then, instead of going there, you're going there. So that's fine. And I'm so much happier for it.
I suppose, and I think me and Jack are going to be similar, because I have never been a planner. So career planning is something that has been more on my radar now, because I want to be more intentional. So I feel a little bit torn sometimes because for me personally, I'm a bit of a yes person. I can't say no. And I think that works because me saying yes has opened the door to new experiences. And I think one of the reasons why I'm one of the reasons why I'm sat here right now is because I've said yes. Like I've never really planned because I found it overwhelming. I am starting to be different now because I'm in a place where I know what I like to do and I know what I wanted to do more of. So I know that I need to be more intentional and make more of it, because the more intentional I am, the more of the right opportunities will come my way. And I don't know if you're similar, Jack.
Yeah, I think like you said, you and I are very similar. We're not planners at all. And I am totally guilty of that for the first 30 years of my life, pretty much. But the most recent career move I made, which is where I am now at Canada, that was a very conscious decision for me to, as you were saying there, Tasmin, like align more with my goals, my values and stuff. The previous job I had, they essentially tried to double my salary overnight to keep me employed, and actually was like, okay, that's a lot of money. I literally had the it would have to be stupid money. And the boss was like, well, what's stupid money then? That amount, I guess. And actually chose the lower salary to come and work at Canada because it felt like the right move for me at the time. And it has turned out to be. It's the reason I'm sat here, as you were saying, Sarah. There's that element of bringing what my outside interests were, so things like my creative side and the podcasting and all that kind of thing, along with the SEO and marketing job I was already doing. And that was like, okay, this is now a conscious decision to progress my career. Because previously, I kind of just stuck in a job until it was no longer available. Basically, a bunch of companies have gone out of business or been merged or taken over or whatever it was. And I would just be the last man standing of like, everyone else left for that other company. And there's me sat there like, well, I'm the last person here. I guess you're going to fire me now, right? Because there's nobody else left to fire. No, well, okay. And there was the first time I'd consciously made a decision to move from one job to another without losing my job. And it felt like, okay, this is actual planning now. And this was 3 years ago. And it's been a conscious decision for me since to think how I can then go forward and kind of plan my ideas and what I want to see from my career internally as well.
Sounds like you're very loyal.
Yeah, a bit too much, some might say. I stick around with things even though I probably should have moved on for some things. But yeah.
I mean, that's common, really. Like, I think everyone in this audience is stuck at something a bit too long because you're hopeful that it's going to change, or you're not quite ready to move on. So I think, yeah. I mean, is there anything else that we want to? Because we're going to go on to talk about why career planning is overwhelming. But I suppose the first question I asked about, like, if people knew what career planning was, and not a lot of hands were raised, maybe we should quickly sort of say what we think career planning is.
I think one of the things, just wanted to pick up on something you said about saying yes and exploring, and you were saying about, and I think when you're younger, go off and find out different things, gather the data, have those experiences, figure out what do I like, what don't I like. You won't know until you try. So it's not as if, the minute you step out of university, you've got, or whatever route you've taken, that you've got to have it all mapped out. Some people do, some people don't, and that's fine. But I think it's not so much career planning, it's holistic planning. So when I sit down with my goals and what do I want to achieve this year, next year, it is holistically.
Okay, so so it's not just career work.
No, because my husband and I were talking about this yesterday, that if I worked longer hours in my business, could I achieve more? Yes, I could. But I would lose something. I would lose the relationship I have with him in the way it is. I would lose the peace in my home. I would lose, I wouldn't like not being able to cook for my family because that's part of who I am. So it's that holistic lifestyle that you're searching for. And one would argue, I would argue, that if we talk about not having enough energy, but if you know yourself and align your life with what energizes you, and then you know what career you feel energized with, and then that energy is like constantly being, what's the word, perpetual? Is that the right word?
Sounds fancy. Go with it.
Right. It's a little bit like a flywheel. So you and yourself are gaining more and more energy, and then you and your career, again, it's giving you energy, and you and your relationships is giving you energy. So your whole life is energizing, rather than, oh, I hate my job, so I'm going to go off and do some self-care, but then that also drains me, and now I've got to find time for date night, and everything just becomes hard work. But when you plan your life in a way that you know who you are, and you know what your values are, and you know what energizes you, then it doesn't become such a chore.
And I mean, I've got to be careful saying this term, but if you're doing stuff that energizes you or doing stuff that you enjoy, don't want to sound,
Yeah.
sorry, don't want to sound cliche, but work doesn't feel like work?
No.
Or is that unrealistic? Is that idealistic?
There are some parts of my work which I would rather not do, and that's like the admin.
Is that doing the podcast with me?
No, that's that. Oh,
Tazmin would rather be anywhere else than sat here right now, clearly. Just didn't want to say it out loud.
I love doing a podcast with you, and that's a story in itself. But
You tell to your therapist every week.
you know what? I was thinking, oh, I really missed Jack last time when he wasn't here. I'm not so sure now.
Should we get Willow? Get on speed dial.
We'll start a hashtag bring Willow back.
Bring Willow back. But yeah, admin and finances, don't like doing that bit, but the rest of it's great.
Yeah. Jack,
Yeah,
career
Jack.
planning. You describe it.
For me, I used the term like conscious decision earlier, and I think that was the biggest part for me, where it's not like letting other people decide where my jobs are going and where I'm going to work next and what kind of role I'm going to go for and all that kind of stuff. When I realized I could do something that I actually cared about, as you said, Tazmin, like aligning your passions with your work, I was like, oh, I could get paid to do a podcast. That's crazy. Basically, no one gets to do that, which is very cool. And like I said, the conversation I had with my previous employer was the whole like, yeah, sure, we'll set up a podcast for you to keep you happy and all this kind of stuff. Whereas I'd already had the conversation with the guys at Candor, I was already listening to their podcast. I was already a fan of Search with Candor before I became the host. And it was this element of like, well, I know you guys align with my values. You kind of know what you're doing. So I'm going to take the leap and go for it. And because it was that conscious decision rather than I don't really have any other options, I'll just apply for whatever's available. I need to pay my rent, that kind of thing, which has been my previous 30 years of, 15 years of employment, I guess. There was that kind of conscious decision to then think, okay, I can make this plan long-term rather than reacting short-term just so I pay my rent the next month, essentially.
I completely agree with what you both have said. And it was a turning point for me when I realized work can be something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And you can do more things that you do enjoy. And something that I've realized is I think I might have been unintentionally career planning because if I look back at all my most recent steps, so back in my student days, I got into student radio, flipping loved it, saw myself as a bit of a radio DJ.
I can see that. Yeah.
Thank
definitely.
you. Never happened, but it's fine. But you can see how then I transitioned into podcasting. And I think we had this conversation it was one of our podcast episodes where we were talking about public speaking. And something that I've realized that I enjoy is performance. So I've come from like a dance performing arts background because like that's creative and I enjoy it and that's good fun. But something that I've realized is performance can come in lots of other ways. Podcasting, for example. I'm very aware that I'm going to derail myself what am I talking about? So I've realized that over the years, because I know that I've enjoyed podcasting, and public speaking and being creative, my last few moves or my career moves have been around that. And I just want to urge other people that it's about something that we talk about a lot on the podcast is self-awareness, isn't it?
Yes.
Being reflective, knowing what you enjoy doing, what like brings you passion, but you can not to sound idealistic, and I don't think it's idealistic. I think you can definitely do that more in your career, which is the whole point of career planning. Yeah?
Agreed.
Okay, so we've talked about what it is, our experiences. Should we touch on why we find it overwhelming? Does anyone want to lead?
Yeah, I think for me, it's that I keep using the term decision, but I'm terrible at making decisions. I am not a very good, spontaneous decision maker. And then as we said earlier, don't take the time to plan in advance to then make a proper decision. You said gathering data earlier, Tazmin. I think that's a hugely important thing. I totally apply in my marketing principles, but then didn't apply to myself. And then I was thinking of getting that element of having the data behind that decision, because it's a big life decision. You could hate the next job. You could have a terrible manager. We've all had terrible managers. We've all had terrible bosses. And there's that element of, well, I'm stuck in this terrible job now. What do I do? And then you have to go through the whole job application process again or find something else or whatever it is. So there is a lot of fear. And I think for me, the fear of rejection of applying to jobs and getting rejected over and over again, or just not hearing anything back at all. There's that initial push of well, this could all go very badly. I could get rejected multiple times, so I'm just not going to bother. And that for me was what was really putting me off going for that next job, going for that promotion, whatever it is, having those awkward conversations where you feel like you need to put yourself out there.
Rejection is hard. And
that's a hot take, Sarah. Yeah.
All right. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rejection is, and I think it comes with being more resilient, I suppose, doesn't it? It is scared. It's really easy to be sat here being go out of your comfort zone, push yourself, try things. If you get rejected, push yourself.
Plenty more fish in the sea and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
They don't deserve you.
Yeah.
But it gets easier the more you do it, and the better you get at reframing, and that takes practice. And sometimes we then make that rejection into something else. I'm sorry you didn't get this job because there were so many applicants, and we take it as, oh no, they hated me, I'm rubbish. Why don't you just believe them? Maybe there were just so many applicants. Just don't make it bigger than it has to be. And I remember not so long ago, I got rejected because I didn't have a particular skill. So I emailed them back and said, well, I'm really passionate about pursuing this thing. How can I get that skill? Is there a course I can take? Is there this? Is there that? And they said, unfortunately not. So the only way you could get it is by doing that job, which I didn't get because I couldn't do that thing. So I said, well, I'd like to remind you about all of this other stuff that I have that is in addition to what you're looking for, above and beyond. I can do this and this and this and this. And actually, I think you lost out, because I honestly believe that I would have been great.
They definitely missed out.
Yeah, they did. And you know what? Even if it's not true, maybe they got the perfect person. What is better for me? Yes, I'm not saying be delusional. If they're saying you can't swim and it's a big requirement of this job, go and learn how to swim.
That is quite important.
Are you talking about your marine biology?
Back to the marine biology.
Come back again.
I don't know where this space just makes memories pop into your head. But at the same time, if you are able to do that job, if you have all of the skills and they reject you, which belief is going to be better for you? The one that says, oh, you're rubbish, that's why they didn't hire you, or actually, you know what, they're rubbish because they didn't hire you.
It's very true. It's very true.
with the latter.
It's a change of mindset, isn't it? And speak to you right in that instance doesn't mean that you won't always be right. There'll be something else.
One day they'll learn.
Hopefully.
Tazmin, where does overwhelm come for you?
I think there's just so much information, so many people telling you what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, what you should apply for, how much you should be earning, what sort of life you should be leading. There's just so much. And, social media does not help.
And luckily, we're going to be sharing some strategies to deal with all of that.
So I think that's part of it. Another thing is that I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but because I got into this planning habit later in life, I thought, oh no, I've missed out, I don't have enough time now. I'm getting older. I'm 40 now, and now I'm planning. I should have been planning in my 20s and my 30s. And then you start panicking. And suddenly, this year I need to make everything happen that should have happened in the last 10 years. Well, it doesn't work like that. But if you will just slow down, what is it that you want? And look within. I think there's too much emphasis on what is the world telling me I should be doing? What is the world telling me that I'm good at or not good at? We're seeking validation from external instead of internal. And this art of self-reflection and self-understanding just seems to be diminishing more and more and more. And it's bizarre because we hear this phrase, I want to be financially independent. I want to be financially independent. Great.
I don't even know what that means.
We'll talk later. That's another, maybe we'll do that.
Should I be financially independent?
That's the next episode of the podcast when we come back in April.
Stay tuned.
But what about emotionally independent? What if I don't need all of these people to be telling me how I should be feeling or what I should be doing next? What about understanding that yourself? Take advice, gather information and say, okay, these 10 people have told me these 10 things, but I know who I am, what I like, what my values are, and what I want for my life. Actually, those 3 ideas align. Maybe I'll give those a bit of thought. Those 7, totally rubbish. I'm going to reject those. And we don't seem to do that.
It's very true. Something that I struggle with and where my overwhelm comes from, and I don't know if it's going to make me sound weird, but I am terrified of getting it wrong. And I think if I look back on anything or anything that I'm doing right now or campaigns or anything that I'm working on, there is something in me that I'm always terrified that I'm going to do something wrong. And maybe it's the people pleaser in me. Maybe, I don't know where this fear comes from, but even sending out an email campaign, the emails that you've all been receiving, I checked them about 10 times before I sent them out. So when it comes to career planning, part of my brain goes, what if I plan it wrong? Which I don't know if is weird to say, or also because of my past experience of not being a planner and always just saying yes to stuff. What if I say no to something because it's not in my career plan, but then it ends? Do you know what I mean? And that is a wrong thing to say.
There's that balance of flexibility, right? You can't.
Yeah.
There's an element of, and we'll get into strategies and stuff in a minute, but having that career plan, an idea of what you want to do, but also having the flexibility to realize maybe I'll try something slightly different. And as you said, Tazmin, still need to align yourself with your overall values and stuff like that. But I think then if you're following it too strictly, you can feel a bit boxed in and feel too constricted. And I think I definitely felt that early in my career when I started off marketing intern straight out of university. Despite my physics degree, I went straight into marketing because nobody goes and works in physics after having a physics degree, apparently. But yeah, I went into marketing and communications and stuff like that. And it was a weird kind of, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and ended up working in student accommodation, then an international school, then building the website for that international school. And that's how I learned digital marketing skills. And none of that was planned. But I feel like if I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this and go for this, I would have felt very intimidated if I'd have really boxed myself in at 21 years old or whatever it was when I came out of university. And I think having that flexibility to kind of go with the flow, especially when you're young and you have that ability to kind of not worry about mortgages and kids and pets or whatever it is, that kind of thing. There you have that ability to plan, but still adjust as you go along and have the wherewithal to be not too constrictive on yourself.
I feel like I can see why can't I say words right now? I've said your name so many times and now your name has just gone from my brain. Tazmin. There we go.
I do hear what you're saying. And I think just because you've decided on the 1st of January that this is what you're going to do this year, and it's that constant checking it, you can tell if something's going right or something's not going right. You can tell if you listen to yourself. And then set yourself up saying, okay, you know what, every 2 months or every quarter, I'm going to sit down and go through that list. Is there something else I want to be doing? Is there something that I'm doing that I'm not happy with? Is there an opportunity? And when you get opportunities, you don't have to say no, because it's not in my plan. It's your plan. It's flexible. You can change it. You don't have to be rigid about it. As long as that thing works for you, it makes sense to you at that time.
And I suppose another way of looking at it also gives you permission to say no, because there's a lot of things that I've said yes to when I probably shouldn't have, but I've got this innate in me to say yes. Whereas if I've got this career plan in my head, there's a reason for me to say no.
It's like having a backup plan if you're not going to a thing, that somebody invites you to something and like, oh no, it's cancelled. What a shame. I'm going to have to stay inside and just chill out or whatever. The relief of having a meeting cancelled at the last minute. Like, oh, you got a built-in excuse. And I think the career plan works in a similar way where, like you said, it gives you that reason to say no to things. So you're not just saying no and thinking, was that the right decision? Should I have said no? Having data, having a plan in there then gives you actual reasons and rational thinking behind making a decision. And coming back around to what I was saying about being a big decision, you can then justify that more to yourself and make it seem less overwhelming.
I love those moments when a plan is cancelled and you get
delicious.
And you just get the PJs on.
Yeah. You're literally like, okay, it's time to get dressed. No, straight back pajamas.
And then, but you have to pretend, I'm so it's such a shame. I was really looking forward.
All the broken heart emojis, and you're there just
crying face. Yeah. Big question. Oh, it might not be a big question. I've over egged it now, haven't I? It might be a mediocre sized question. But as we're talking about career planning, what do you wish that you both would have done sooner, if that question makes
sense? Paid attention to the clues that were so apparent in my life.
Were you ignoring them?
I think I was hoping that if I did that thing really, really well, somebody would just hand me that thing on a platter. So I was always in tech because that's what people did. I was okay at it. I didn't get sacked ever. So I'm using that as a...
All right, rub it in, Tazmin, blimey.
You're getting a round of applause.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a good teller that I was rubbish at it. That I got sacked from it.
I was not a good grocery stacker person. That's my tell. That's the one I got fired from.
So I never got sacked. And I, people talked to me nicely. So I'm using those two things as a clue that I did okay at it. But when I started understanding things like personal development and goal setting and all of these great things, I remember telling my managing director at the time, I really want to run a goal setting workshop. Can I do it? He said, yeah, go for it. And I did. And then I ran another and another. And then every organization I went to, I said, oh, can I give a talk on inner chatter? Yeah, sure, go ahead. And I loved doing it. And I did it all in my own time. And I thought stupidly, that somebody would say, oh, Tazmin, you're really good at that. You know what? Why don't you stop doing that data integrity stuff or that SEO stuff and do that full time? Because that's what I secretly wanted. But it didn't happen, bizarrely. It's strange that, until I took the step. But when we talk about gathering data, analyze that data, all of the skills that you normally use in your work for other people, use it for your own life. And say, okay, clearly there is a trend there. Tazmin likes doing personal development stuff and she enjoys it, and people seem to enjoy that. Why don't you do something with that? So that's what I wish I had done sooner.
And I think we can all relate to that. Jack, how would you answer the question?
Similarly, with, like I said, with the podcasting stuff, really, for me, it was that switch in my brain was mentioning the podcasting stuff, like on my professional side of things, on my CV, on my LinkedIn page, all that kind of stuff. That's literally what got me the job at Candour, is because Mark Williams-Cook, who I'm sure plenty of people in the audience know, who was the original host of Search with Candour, is our marketing director at Candour. And he saw my post on LinkedIn. He was looking to hire an SEO person, but spotted that I also do a film podcast. And he has strong opinions about certain films. And we talk about bad film sequels on Sequelizers. He said, hey, I actually like Predator 2. I was like, you're wrong. Predator 2 is terrible. And we just had a conversation on LinkedIn. It's like, by the way, are you interested in an SEO role? I'm like, sure. Yeah. Okay. Why not? Yeah. And it was literally, Mark has never seen my CV, never like checked my resume or anything like that until
I want to know
years
how
later.
it went from like debating films to, hey, come and work.
Surprisingly quickly. It was like 3 DMs. And I was like, yeah, let's set up an interview. Why not?
Impressive.
Yeah. I move fast.
Can we we need to do a round of applause because the Sequelizers has been nominated for an Independent Podcast Awards. Are you getting a bit?
I don't take full credit with my co-hosts, Matt and Tim, as well. But yeah, it was a weird thing where it was the first time I'd mentioned it on my LinkedIn and on my CV, because previously I thought, well, I want a marketing job, so I'm just going to mention my marketing stuff. And then realizing, a bunch of the skills that I use to promote the podcast, to create the podcast, are also relevant to my professional development as well. So mentioning on that, suddenly I'm doing a marketing and podcasting role 3 years later. I wish I'd done that a lot sooner. I've been podcasting for 15 years. There's 12 years
that needs a round of applause. 15 years. Like, wow.
It was 12 years of not mentioning it anywhere, keeping like podcasting very separate from my personal life and professional life, all that kind of stuff. And actually, all of that stuff is relevant to each other.
Of course.
I probably should have done that a lot sooner, like 10 years earlier. How about you, Sarah?
Oh, glad you asked me the question. Tables have turned. I wish that I was braver sooner, because, and I know it's hard, isn't it? Because it's hard to be brave, especially when you've got lots of things to think about. So one of the things that I wish I did sooner was go freelance. So I went freelance end of April this year, and it's going for like 5 months, and I'm still going 5 months, which
Congratulations. Round of applause for that. There we go.
I mean,
I've really turned the tables on you now, mate.
5 months, 15 years. Like, I
didn't get paid a penny for that. You're actually living as a freelancer. I didn't get paid for podcasting until I was like 32.
But it was always something that I wanted to do, and I would even like talk to people, lots of people about it, because something that I do is when there's something in my brain that I want to do, I have to talk it out, or I have to like talk it through with other people. And yeah, like I always sort of like push that want or feeling down, like, no, you should stay employed. It is safe. It is secure. I'm very struggling saying that sounds, but anyway.
Developed a lisp all of a sudden.
I think so. And yeah, and I've been doing this 5 months, and I'm very appreciative of where I am, and I flipping love it, and I'm having a whale of a time. And I just wish that I was brave enough to do it sooner, like, because yeah, but I think hindsight, and obviously you can't change the past, you are where you are now. I'm glad that I am doing it now, and I'm just glad that there was something that pushed me enough to be like, do you know what, just have a go. Because, and I'm very aware that everyone's got different situations. Like I don't have kids, like I don't own a house, like I could be a bit risky. I don't know why I looked at you then, Jack. I can be a bit risky.
I have pets in a house, so I don't have any kids. So
well, when I said
there's still
risky,
big decisions. I think that comes around to the big decision thing, right?
I mean, pets are like,
they are my kids, really. Yeah,
there you go, your fur babies.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. But I think everyone would have wished they'd been like braver sooner. I think that's a common thing. Like you're doing something now, like even starting a podcast, Tazmin. Do you wish you started a podcast sooner?
I didn't even think about it until you said, fancy doing a podcast? No, all right, then let's do that then. But I think, your initial question, what do I wish I'd done? Yes, I too wish I'd been braver earlier. I wish I had spoken nicely to myself earlier, because I think we beat ourselves up a lot. I think I wish I had started appreciating my own skill set earlier, because we're very good at saying, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that, I'm not good at the other. Whereas if you flip that around and say, I am good at this, I can do that, I'm getting better at that, the way you speak to yourself impacts the choices that you make.
Well, there's a thing, isn't there? Don't say something to yourself that you wouldn't say to a friend or like family or loved one. I mean, very easier said than done, but you've got to be kinder to yourself, haven't you? Should we get into some strategies?
Yeah.
Some things. I think you've got quite a list.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about this. I did this the first time a few months ago, and it retrospectively showed me that my career in coaching is exactly what I should be doing. So there's 4 circles. One is what is it that you love doing? So you write down all the things that you love doing. Next one is what are you good at? And there will be some that are in both camps. The next one is what could you get paid for? And then the 4th circle is what does the world need? And whatever is in the intersection will give you ideas on what you should, what career is aligned to you innately. Now, it does more than that. So when you sit down and write down, what am I good at? It makes you feel good. It makes you feel empowered. When you write down, what do I love doing? That also helps you make choices on what do I want to spend my spare time doing? When you look at the other areas, you start aligning. That doesn't, and you start learning about yourself. Confession time.
Here we go.
It's bizarre. I really love cleaning kitchens.
That is a deep, dark secret right
if
there.
anyone wants to hire Tazmin to clean their kitchen.
Life coach and kitchen Tazmin Suleiman.
I am very good at cleaning kitchens. I believe the world needs clean kitchens, and I also believe I could get paid. However, I did not put it in my ikigai because I have a vision of my life and I have a mission within that, and it's cleaning the world's kitchens is not there. So you may find that there is something in the middle, and again, it's tapping into yourself and saying, okay, do I want to be doing that for the rest of my life? So that's a really good one. But I did another one recently that was also fantastic called the 9 Lives. Has anyone done the 9 Lives exercise? Okay, so you don't overthink it. Get a piece of paper and say, okay, what are 9 lives that I could have? Now, 1 has to be your current life. So number 1, put down what you'd like to do. And then list out another 8 that you'd really like to do. I'd like to be a professional cleaner or a marine biologist, or I put down
Got 3 Tasmins already. I'm impressed.
So I put down things like, I'd like to be an author, I'd like to be this, I'd like to be that, I'd like to be the other. And you just write them down. Now, the idea isn't that you suddenly think, I'm going to leapfrog into one of those. It doesn't have to be that drastic. find the one that you would love to do. If there was nothing holding you back, no restrictions at all, which is the life that you would really love to live? And become aware of it and try, when we talk about career planning, try and find a way of moving towards that slowly. The other ones, what is it in those other lives that you can take and put into your life currently? So I would love to write a book. I've told you that I'd love to write a book. What's stopping me writing a book?
What is stopping you?
It's bizarre because in my head, I've already written it. I just need to put it on a piece of paper, and it's called Sarah's Dream. It's a children's book.
We download your brain, Tazmin, or something like we need some like brainwave downloading ability.
I mean, we will be there one day, surely. AI,
Well, I downloaded this new app today. I think it's just been released by Ali Abdul, who I'm a big fan of.
You neapnever talk about this.
I never talk about him at all, ever. And then you just talk, you just describe your book, and apparently it's really great at curating. So I've taken a step forward. And it's a really interesting exercise because you're not overthinking it and you're not doing it, you're just writing it down. And then what is stopping you doing some of those things? The other thing that I thought of doing was running a day retreat. Now, I say a day retreat because I know I like people, but at the same time, I also like being on my own. Would I be able to take a group of people on a 6-day retreat? No, thanks. I'm not doing that. Could I do it for a day? Yeah, actually, I'd like to try that. So that is part of my 2025 plan. 2 retreats, March and September.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And there's another strategy as well with the.
So I call it the ISA. Everyone's got a variation of doing it. Say you decide, I want to. Who set a goal and it didn't happen? It just didn't happen.
New Year's resolutions count.
Okay. Right. Okay. Out of the people who had a goal that didn't happen, did you have a strategy?
0 hands, viewers and listeners.
We've got some people doing
there's some middly hands.
People, okay, just one person here. So I'm going to pick. Did you have any actions aligned to that strategy? Okay.
Good start. Downloading a gym app is a good start.
That's as far as I've got with my book.
You've got a book app. You've got a gym app. The first step is find an app that fulfills your goal. There you go.
So financial commitment.
Yeah.
They're important.
So once you're paying for it and you're on the subscription, you're then incentivized. Well, I need to get my money's worth, so I have to go to the gym or write the book or whatever.
So what happened?
You spent £10,000 since.
So action 1 would be download the app. Action 2 would be open the app.
Do we need to have? I feel like we're having this discussion with a bunch of professional people in tech of download the app, open the app, input your email. It's an email, right? It starts with a word and then there's an at in the middle.
I'm going to explain what an email is.
I was taking the piss, mate. That's fine. I'm not. That's the point.
So I is intention. We have goals, but if you don't know why you're doing it, then it's pointless. It really is pointless. And in Islam, there is a word for it called niyat. And before you do anything, you have to have that niyat. Why am I doing it? So every action is connected to a wider why. Simon Sinek's been talking about it for a few years, but it's as old as civilization is. So that's the I. Then you've got a strategy. So one of the things that I want to be doing, and I am working on it, is I want our meal times to be more nutritious at home. So that's the goal. And the reason why is we want to live healthily. We have a wonderful family. We want to enjoy that family. Okay, so what's the strategy? Part of the strategy is I need to change the way I cook. I need to change the things I cook. The action is every week I'm going to cook 1 new recipe and then work out the nutritional information on it. So I slowly start collecting a bank of recipes that then replace the not so nutritional food that I cook. So there is an intention, there is a strategy. Part of that is the cooking, and the action is cook one recipe a week. And sometimes, because we don't go through that process, now all I have to worry about is cooking one recipe a week. That's it. Another part of the strategy is moving more. I don't like going to the gym. I know I'm not going to do it, but I love walking. All right, so I'm going to walk more. How often am I going to walk? That's in the plan. How am I going to make it fun? Also, my buddy's advice, make everything fun. I like listening to audiobooks. So that's my plan, that I will be walking every Saturday, twice during the week and once during the weekend, and I'll be listening to my audiobook. Now all I have to do is that. And if I keep doing that, the goal takes care of itself.
There you go.
ISA, remember ISA?
Nice. And what does the ISA stand for again?
Intention, strategy, action.
There you go. Jack, hit us with your strategies.
Collecting the data we were talking about earlier, because it's all easy. Like I said, using your marketing skills. A bunch of us know how to use various different tools, including Systrix and Majestic, who sponsor us here. Shout out to the Steves. And we're so used to seeing data, handling data, analyzing data, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't collect data on yourself and your career, then you have nothing to make those decisions we were talking about earlier. And for me, it's been a very it takes a lot of effort to think about, okay, this went well, this went poorly, and actually writing that down and tracking it and seeing what's changed, what's happened here, why did that fail, why did that go well, and literally saying, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Like when I first got into digital marketing, I was doing everything. It was a bit of web design, it was a bit of PPC, it was SEO, it was bits and pieces. Turns out I don't like PPC. And I ended up not working in PPC. I went towards SEO because I made that decision of like, well, that's the bit I don't like. And I'm aware that I don't like that because it's a very stressful, lots of clients hassling me and things like that. So I kind of kept track of that. I have a little like spreadsheet thing. And I was like, okay, I don't like that. I actually prefer the SEO side of things, like copywriting, that kind of thing. I'm going to lean more towards that side of thing. And that also comes with what I know we've talked about in the live podcast before, that Yay folder that I know we bring up fairly regularly, where you're keeping track of feedback you get from managers, feedback from whatever it is, friends, family. Oh, I saw you did a really cool thing the other day. That was amazing. And they tell you that. Keep track of that somewhere. Screenshots, keep it in a Google Doc, whatever you have to do. So when you're going for that next job or that next promotion, it's not literally just the stuff on your CV or your resume. Then in the interview, like, oh yeah, I did do that thing 2 years ago that was the most successful campaign we've ever had, or something like that. Triggering those little memory things and actually keeping track of your successes and your accomplishments and learning from your failures, I think is a conscious decision rather than, I think that went really well, but actually having data behind it to then push yourself to go for that dream job, go for that thing. And also when it comes to dream jobs, pay attention to who works there, what they do, what their values are. If you really want to work for Google or Apple or whatever it is, be aware of who works there, what they do, what the company values are. Pay attention, be part of their community, all that kind of stuff. Collect data about the places you want to work for, the clients you want to work with, and then use that data to make decisions to progress further.
I really want to know why you didn't enjoy PPC.
I had some annoying clients that I will not name on a podcast.
Give us the tea. Spill the tea.
We'll do a live podcast after dark thing.
After hours. Great strategies. Do you want some of my strategies?
Please do.
It's going to be really awkward if you both say no, because then where do we move on from that?
We need to get like a yay from the audience to encourage you. Oh, do you want to hear Sarah's strategy? There we go. You can't say no now.
I know, and it has to be really good, doesn't it? So no pressure. So 2 things. Advice for if you know where you want to go, and advice if you don't know. So if you know where you want to go, that's great. What you need to do is work yourself back from that, because part of the overwhelm is when you've got this massive goal, this massive target, how the fudge do you get there? Yeah. So I always like to work back and break it down into manageable chunks, because there's this idea that what's the smallest viable thing that you can do that gets you on the path to where you want to be, because then you get into that mindset, I am doing something. Then be realistic. So how long is it going to take? Is it going to be 3 months? Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be 12 months? Once you've put an idea in, always add more time, because I don't know about everyone else here, but I always think I can do so much. I feel like I'm a superhero, and I can do so much in this.
You are, Sarah, you are.
Thank you. But so many times where I write this massive list that I think I'm going to get done in a day, and I literally get 2 things done. Yeah. There's some nods going on in the audience. So be realistic, and it is hard to be realistic, but just give yourself a buffer. Yeah. So you have a think, oh, this is going to take me this long, add some more time on. And also, this is like a guide. Like, don't beat yourself up or feel bad if you don't get there. Like, that's not, it's just giving you a plan and a direction. And then off you go. And then as you go on your journey, find people, accountability buddies. I'm a big fan of this. So find someone that you feel safe with, that you can meet up with on the regular, and you can have a bit of a review, and you can have a bit of a check-in, and you can talk about how you're progressing, or maybe you're stuck on something because you want to get somewhere, but you just can't figure out how to do that. So having people that you feel safe with as well, that you can talk to, and schedule it in. Like for me, something doesn't happen if it doesn't go in my calendar or go up in my ClickUp.
I live and die by my calendar, definitely.
So yeah. And then if you don't know where you want to go, it's all about getting that data. Yeah. So have some time getting to know yourself. Have some time learning what do you enjoy doing? What do you want to do more of? Like Tazmin said, if you want to work in certain places, was you or was it Jack? Sorry.
It was me all along.
You just it sounds so similar.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we often get confused.
Often. But do your research, and if there's someone that you aspire to, so for example, going to Brighton SEO, right? If you fancy yourself, I quite like to have a go on the stage, talk to people, get people's experiences, ask. Because the more that you can just be curious, I suppose, be curious about yourself, be curious about other stuff that's going on in the world. Say yes to things. I know this is going back to my other thing, but how do you know if you like something until you try it? And 9 times out of 10, if I do something new for the first time, the thought of it is always worse than the actual doing.
The anticipation is always worse, isn't it?
Yeah. And it makes sense, because in your mind, you don't know what you're setting yourself up for. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. Just, cross that, tried it. Because you're going to be in a much better position having a go at different things, trying stuff out. No one's going to judge you if you do things wrong or things don't. People forget as well. I think we're so worried about what people think and what people are going to say. People will forget they've got their own problems as well. They've got their own stuff that they're worried about and stuff. So yeah, I think that would be my strategies and tips.
I'm going to add my own 3 letters. I'm going to steal an idea from you, Tazmin, the ISA. I'm going to steal the idea from you, Sarah, and combine the 2. ABC, always be curious. I think that's a thing that I, funnily enough, learned in my scientific days and have kind of continued to apply. If you're wondering about something, go and do some research. Go and get that data. Like you said, ask questions. If you want to work at a particular company and you go to Brighton SEO and they're exhibiting, or the speaker is here, or whatever it is, go and talk to them. See what they're like. See what the kind of people who work there, like I was saying earlier, work out what the company is like, the people are like. You might get an idea of like the kind of culture and values, and maybe if you buy them enough drinks, the kind of wages you're going to get paid. But yeah, I think it's that thing of always being curious, always being ready to ask those questions and poke a few holes and see what happens.
Yeah, and you're going to be really unlucky because most times where I've started a conversation and I've asked, it like no one's ever been rude. No one's ever been like, sorry, you can't talk to me. So you're going to be really unlucky if you ever find yourself in that situation. So, I mean, we've got some time to mingle after because we're due to finish shortly, but like have a conversation with each other, find out what everyone's doing, see how they got there. Like ABC, always be curious. ISA, intent, strategy,
action.
My short-term memory, I need to get that looked at, don't I? So we've got a fun little catch box. But before I get there, I just want to check, is there anything else that we want to, I feel like we've covered a lot. But is there anything that anyone wants to say before we do questions and stuff?
Bizarrely, we said that this wouldn't, this is about career planning without overwhelm, and we've just given you loads of things to think about. It's coming up to the end of the year. Give yourself half a day. Sit down with your phone, your calendar, review your year. What have you enjoyed doing this year? What do you wish that you had done? And then going into next year, pick one thing. If you can do one thing that gets you closer to the career that you are seeking, you're going to have more of a chance getting it done if you pick one or two. Don't try and do everything at once. Give yourself a pat on the back for trying and take that step. That would be what I would end with.
Very nice. Jack, not to put you on the spot, but anything else?
I'm sticking with always be curious, to be honest.
I mean, yeah.
That's my final line. I'm ready for Catchbox.
I'm ready.
Right. So, so this part, we open it out and we say it's Q&A, but people just end up sharing their own experiences, stories.
It's an open, honest, safe space. People can share stories. Hopefully you've gotten that impression from the fact that we've been talking about it for the last 45 minutes or so. So
it's a safe space.
Yeah,
everyone's
definitely.
Supportive and friendly. So Catchbox, you got to catch it. That's exciting, isn't it?
It's a foam cube with a microphone on the top. You will need to speak into the bit in the top very closely to get caught by it, but it's a lot of fun.
Any questions you have on career planning, anything you'd like to share about it, it'd be great to hear.
Any hands up? Any ideas?
We've got front at the front row.
Sarah is going to go putting those dancing skills to work, ready to throw that catch box.
I'll throw it. You ready? I'll put my microphone down.
Probably a good idea. Hey, we got it. Nice.
Just to echo what I think saying about before you can plan anything, you've got to do your research. Like I've had what they call a rich and diverse portfolio career. Worked in healthcare and somehow found working for one of the world's largest employers, the NHS. And now I'm a freelancer, I can be my own boss. From being a small cog, I've done lots of other things, failed at lots of other things.
Can you put the box closer to your mouth, please, Chris?
Oh, do I have to? Oh, it's actually an actual microphone.
It's not just a box for fun. It's a real microphone. It's actual technology, mate. It is. It's cool. It's really cool. I like the catch box.
So
there we go.
Basically, you've got to do your research, explore the world before you can start even thinking about planning. That's, I think, just to echo what you said, really.
Yeah, curiosity. So, with freelancing, what are you doing?
SEO.
Ah, nice. How long have you been freelancing for?
16 years.
Wow.
Not a rich man, but a free man.
Free man.
That deserves a round of applause.
Okay. Is anyone up for sharing anything? Anyone want to ask anything? Anyone?
I see a lot of familiar faces shying away from me right now.
Far to throw. Just there you go.
Hey, lovely catch. Well done.
Oh, yeah, I got a question for the panel. Yeah, how would you sort of, any tips for people to deal with things like comparisons? I feel like my perception might be at times that there's sometimes comparisons can be a bad thing, and any advice on how to recognize such things and maybe what to do if you are feeling like that? 'Cause it sort of feels like at times there's a bit of pressure on people to do certain things, and not everyone has to do the same thing.
Yeah, are you comparing yourself to other people? Is that what you mean in similar industries and things like that?
Not me personally
I mean, in
at this
general.
moment in time, but yeah, definitely something I've come across in the past without going into too much detail. But yeah, you definitely see that. So it'd be interesting, just because I guess the theme here was like pursuing like what you want to pursue, but at the same time, you do see comparisons, which some people do describe as quite a toxic behavior.
Yeah, definitely. I think you mentioned social media earlier, Tazmin. That's we all know that the things we all post on social media are not necessarily our most honest things. We put our best foot forward, especially when we're job hunting or thinking about a career and all that kind of stuff. You're putting yourself out there. And everyone is doing that. So you're not seeing the honest side of yourself. But you can get through that by having that conversation. Maybe you see, somebody who is doing a public speaking role, as Sarah mentioned earlier, that you're interested in, like, oh my God, they've just got it all now. They know exactly what they're doing. I've started comparing myself to them. Actually having a conversation with that person, you can then get through that kind of social media filter into the real world and realize, like, oh no, I struggled with this for 10 years, or oh, I wasn't comfortable with that. I was in exactly the same position you were, years previously in my career, or whatever it is. I think breaking through that filter and having those real world conversations can ease off the comparison a little bit and help with that. You're comparing real to real rather than like a perceived dream job, dream role, whatever it is, to where your real situation is. Does that help a little bit? Maybe.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take yeah, potentially.
Harsh.
Yeah, no, thanks.
I think also when we compare ourselves with other people, we're comparing our perception of ourselves with our perception of them. And it's really asking yourself, am I being truthful to myself with my perception of myself? And usually we are downgrading ourselves and using that perception and then comparing it with somebody else. So that's one thing. Are you being truthful about you? Would your beliefs about you stand up in a court of law? Would that judge be able to say, okay, where's the evidence? Would you have the evidence for it? Usually not. It's all in our head. Another thing is understanding that everyone is messed up in some way.
Speak for yourself, Tazmin.
No offense, audience.
Everybody's muddling their way through. Nobody's got the perfect idea and nobody gets it right first time. Nobody does. They're all going through it. And in one way, we glamorize failure. Oh, this author had to go to 75 different publishers until they found the one that would take their book. Oh, Colonel Sanders had to go to a gazillion people before he could sell his chicken, whatever. We glamorize it, but when we have to go through it ourselves, it feels harder. And most people who have succeeded will say, I've been through 10 years, 15 years, 20 years of failure to get there. So we're all muddling our way through. So it's being honest about your own perception of yourself and being realistic about other people.
I was going to say, is that survivorship bias? But that's probably going off topic. But I think that was really helpful. Like, sort of definitely a bit of paradigm shift in my mind there, has sort of approaching that quandary. Thank you.
Hands. Oh, we've got lots of
a very enthusiastic hand at the back there.
So we've got.
Go for the big throw. Everybody duck.
You can do it.
Hey! Highlight of the podcast, and it's not on video.
Whether or not I can live up to the catch, I'm not sure. This isn't necessarily a concept that works for everyone, but it's a business concept from Simon Sinek. The concepts of the finite and the infinite game. And two really salient examples of that are Apple and Microsoft. Microsoft is always comparing themselves against Apple, whereas Apple never does. It's always about being the better version of the company that it was 2 or 3 years ago. And again, to speak to Tazmin's concept, sometimes we need to externalize ourselves and almost think of ourselves as a company or as something that is not us as an individual, to see, okay, how can I be incrementally better than I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, yesterday, rather than that comparison. Because in Simon Sinek's concept of the finite and the infinite game, right? The people who are playing the finite game always lose, whereas there is really no way to lose if you're playing an infinite game. So if you're just trying to be a better version of yourself than you were yesterday, that 1% incremental that no one else is really doing because it's only 1%, then you're in a better headspace than 99% of people.
That's really good. I mean, yeah.
Round of applause. Nice.
And I would add to that, every goal that you set for yourself, every challenge that comes your way, ask yourself, what is this challenge enabling me to do? Because every goal ultimately is leading you to be the better person. If you say, I want a better relationship, what does that take? Oh, that takes more compassion, more empathy, more patience, better listening skills. That is making you a better person. If you have to go up, you're progressing in your career and have to learn how to negotiate better or stakeholder management better, that again it is developing qualities in you that is going to make you a better person. So the ultimate goal is a better you.
Yeah, and I'm definitely someone where I needed to kind of externalize myself to not only see the lack of comparison, right? Like I don't have to compare myself to everyone else, but also the things that I was good at. So that may help as well.
Lovely. Right. Let's get some hands up. Oh, you got to throw it.
That's cheating. It's not called pass the box. There we go. Thank you.
I do have a question, but just to extend on this as well, I think what helps with externalizing, I've lost my train of thought. No, I've gone. Sorry, you go. Sorry. You go ahead. I'll
Was it because we made you catch it? Did we put too much pressure on?
Yeah, possibly.
Blame it on us. We'll take that.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Hello. I was just about externalizing your looking at yourself from afar and almost like a Beyonce Sasha Fierce kind of thing.
Nice.
But also to what Jack was saying about you didn't tell anyone that you were a podcaster for years. I just want to give everyone in the room a bit of a nudge and a nag, because I like to do that in a cheerleading kind of way, to even if you're in an employed role, to build your personal brand. Everyone hates the term, but be out there posting on LinkedIn about what you're good at, showing a little bit of your personal, your personality, your hobbies, and just start building that name for yourself. Even if you're in a very happy role that you love very much, you just don't know what will happen in the future with your career. And I'm telling you that as somebody who was one of those annoying careers advisors, but not a bad one though, years ago in a previous life. But now I'm a copywriter and I write for Freelancer magazine, so we should talk.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, the networking's happening already.
It's already happening. Thank you. Oh, yeah, there's a hand up. Oh, that was low. That was a low
Sneaky
one.
catch there, Steve.
Yeah, question then from us as a tool and data provider. A question to the floor. Apart from sponsoring the Mindset podcast, is there anything we do to help? I'm thinking kind of in terms of certification, training, and that sort of support. I'd be interested to hear any of your feedback on that point. Anyone? Can I throw this to someone to answer that?
So just to
Or
confirm,
panel, of course.
is it like how, yeah, so as we're talking about progression and career and planning and stuff, what is needed for that to happen? Like courses, certifications?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of certifications really, because the industry is really, there's not a lot going on in terms of certification. How do people handle that? How do they prove that they're SEOs? How do they train themselves up to be a certified SEO? I'm interested in feedback.
Who has a SEO certification or like a Google or? Well,
I did
just
the
put your
Google
hand-
Analytics
like,
course.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Who has a certification related to their work? Yeah.
Me,
Okay. And what sort of certifications are we talking? Does anyone want to share? Samrush?
It's okay. I can
You're not allowed to talk about competitors.
cut it all out. Come on, Peter.
open and honest. See?
Go on, Natalia.
So recently I started teaching at the university.
Well done.
I'm teaching SEO.
Woo!
Yeah.
I've not finished university myself because I procrastinated with my thesis. So I don't have a diploma myself. And
Have you told your students that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I found myself in a situation when the university, it's a private university, said, we need your certifications. And I was like, what certifications? I don't have any. So I went online and I found all the certifications I could find. So this show I do SEO as a professional. And in a day, I just passed them all. So,
So you are good then.
in SEO, I have a SEMrush one. And then some were paid and I didn't just decide not to pay. And it was enough. So they got me in the last moment because they were like, okay, she's got certifications. But I think there's a gap in the market to have tiers of certifications. So potentially the first one is for everyone to just pass on a day. But the next one, you need an extra level, because I think we need to prove ourselves sometimes in the ways we're not prepared for, like myself. And I think if you prepared something long term where there's certain tiers, I would be interested in that.
Would anyone like to add? Oh, I mean, who are you going to pick?
Hello, everyone. I also think that, it depends on the university you go to. There are some unis that are quite, let's say the UK, a bit too expensive, and so people can't afford to do it. Or maybe that's very theoretical. So a lot of people do like the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is a lot less expensive. It's more practical. But to be able to maintain your chartered marketer status, you have to show that you're doing continuous learning. So every year I have to think, okay, what did I do, this past year? Some of it's the certifications of SEO, but there's not like loads. So yes, there is sort of a gap in the market. I mean, there was the Lightbulb with Women Tech SEO. They did a partnership with the Learning JavaScript SEO, and that was a really good one. Over 4 weeks, I think there's just one more left. So I think more of these type of sessions, and I think also ones where there's feedback sessions. I think the Tom Critchell SEO MBA was really good because it's what? Yeah, no, it's finished. Yeah, but it was just like things like that, because the thing is, once you get past, I don't know, 18 or 22 or some, I don't know, university type class level, yeah, you're too old to get feedback. And when you ask for feedback, it's like, oh, you don't know that? So it's really nice to get like feedback on your assignments. And so that was a very good course, but obviously Tom's gone back to working for someone now. So things like that would be really good to get that continuous feedback around assignments. And then you have these group classes as well. So you can meet others and discuss it. So the teachers doesn't feel like that they are the ones that have to mark everything. You can get feedback with their teammates, classmates.
The next live podcast is going to be an assessment session. We're all going to get scores. Steve is going to be marking your homework.
It's going to happen. There's a flipboard thing.
There you go. We'll go and get a little flip chart.
Chart. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Any more? Anyone else want to?
From my perspective, I just want to kind of piggyback off Joe's point. I feel like there's an opportunity for us to have more conversations and have a forum to network. And I think Joe and Michael have actually created a really nice forum where every Friday people get to join from different parts of the world, and then have a conversation about different questions which have come up during their work week. And I feel like that gives you the opportunity to really think out loud, discuss ideas, and basically not ask a silly question, which I think is something that we need to promote, because I feel like, Tazmin touched upon it, there's a lot of that imposter syndrome, which we need to fight and be like, okay, everyone is having the same problem or has experienced it throughout their career at some point, and we need to just be vocal about it.
Very true.
Yeah, shout out to the SEO office hours, what Joe and Mike are doing, and
Yes.
their live streams and stuff. You can go and join them live
Maybe
in the chat and ask questions and stuff. It's very, very cool.
through the box and then some. Yeah. Have a little of a.
Who wants the box? Joe's getting the box again. Go on, Mike.
Here's your
No,
moment.
he thought about it.
Wanted the box.
Just talk about the SEO office hours.
I
What?
think it was a really good initiative Mike set up. So thank you for inviting me to co-host with you.
For joining.
Go on, Mike.
Oh, he's gone camera shy. But yeah, definitely go and talk to those guys afterwards and find out about SEO office hours. Like, yeah.
I think one gap in the market for certification is some sort of testing Google Webmaster Guidelines. So, like, you know, you get the Google AdWords certification, analytics certification, but Google Webmaster Guidelines, I think, is the big gap in the market.
Yeah, we just talked about the Sitebulb, their study that they did with the JavaScript stuff. Joe, you just mentioned that. And there was a fascinating bit of data in there that was like, everyone thinks knowing how crawling and rendering and indexing works is very important. But like 20% of those people have actually read the documentation and actually understand how it works. You're totally right, Chris. I think there's a big need for kind of, that certification of understanding, do you actually know what you're talking about in a broader sense, in more specific senses? Obviously, there's loads of like Udemy courses and stuff like that. But then, as Natalia mentioned earlier, like, are those people qualified anyone could just upload a Udemy course or do whatever? So yeah, I think it's an interesting idea to get certifications in different skills and then verified stuff that confirms you have actually read best practices and are aware of stuff and you're not just bodging it or black hatting it or whatever.
Very true. Right. Looking at the time, we probably can squeeze one more in. We have got the space until 10, but we obviously want to mingle. We still got drinks, snacks, like everything has to go, because if it doesn't go, us three have to eat it.
Woe is us.
So
It's a hard life.
So take it is a hard life. Someone has to do it. So please make sure. But we can squeeze one more in, can't we? If anyone wants.
Anyone want to catch a box?
We done. People just want snacks, don't they?
Yeah, you've talked up the snacks now.
Okay.
Oh, Andy at the back there.
Okay.
We've got an enthusiastic hand. Go on, Chris. Go for the long throw.
Do it.
Do it. Hey. 100% success rate. Look at that. Well done, audience. Who knew SEOs were so athletic?
One thing that I've sort of like learned from my experience, because I only got into SEO five years ago, is really when setting career goals was making sure that I didn't jump ahead of myself too much. So, early into my SEO management, I had a young, career-driven executive, and her career goal was to become a CEO. And that was, at this point in her career, unobtainable, because like, okay, how are you going to do that? She didn't. It's kind of great that you aspire to be something, but do something that's manageable and work towards that and create micro goals that are going to help you achieve that, and then work the next step. I knew early in my career, I was jumping from job to job, being made redundant, just trying to get another job, getting anything I could, to then going, I don't want to be jumping from job to job. I want to build a career. Okay, so what do I want to do? So I worked out, what I wanted to do, and I wanted to work in marketing. So I set some goals to achieve that. And then it was like, okay, I'm now doing something I really enjoy. But what is it about marketing that I enjoy the most? And that's when I lean towards SEO. I get a career in SEO, and I'm like, this is even better. This is the stuff that I really enjoy doing. I'm a problem solver. I feel like this is for me. Then it's like, okay, so where does this lead me? Quite soon after that, I realized actually, in in the future, I'd love to be a freelancer. I'd love to be doing this myself. So what do I need to achieve to enable me to do that? I need to be confident in selling. I need to be able to market myself. I have to be confident that I can do as good a job as anyone else out there. I don't want to bullshit it until I kind of make it. I have to have years worth of connections. So I'm going to create my own micro goals to enable my confidence to go ahead and achieve it. And it's just breaking that down for me that has really enabled me to go from someone who was in my late 20s, floating around jobs, not knowing what I was going to do with my life, to really having that path that I've been able to get to where I am today, where, I'm in that wonderful place where I'm no longer working for someone else, I'm working for me, and I'm in control of my destiny, which is, for me, something that I've always wanted to do. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
Well done.
Nice.
I am very sorry, but that I'm going to have to call time. So that is the end of the live podcast, the recording. Like I said, we have got the space until 10, so please help us each drink what is left. Thank you. Thank you again to Systrix and Majestic for sponsoring, Silicon Brighton, the projects. And yes, we will be following up with an email, so you can basically, we're going to do better at letting people know about these events. So
That's a goal we've set ourselves.
There's a goal. We're going to take over the world. And the first step is email addresses. So yeah, we'll follow up with you all where you can sign up to be notified about other events and all that lovely stuff. I just want to say thank you for coming. And yeah, is there anything else that you want to say, you both?
Yeah, wraps us up quite nicely, mate. Yeah.
Hi, Tazmin here. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Be more visible, earn more, but also take care of your well-being and have work-life harmony? Well, I can help you because I'm offering you a free 30-minute consultancy call. Together we can go through where you want to be and how to get there. Simply click on the link in the show notes, fill in a form, and I'll get back to you.